Are you ready to throw just one big meat bomb at him or what?
Yeah. A one big meatball ain't gonna work.
Like that. Now you start dreaming that you're having a little barbecue. You pull out a can of lighter fluid. Boom!
All right, boys, let's rip. You see the setup. Episode 185. Obviously, Meat is AFK. He should be back soon, but nonetheless, the locks will continue. If you're new here, we're Meat Boy MMA. It's usually a two-man affair, but nonetheless, the locks will go on. Smash subscribe if you are new. It costs you absolutely nothing and will yield you something. But nonetheless, a quick recap from last week. It was UFC 305, and the meatlock was Junior Tafa. He got absolutely smoked. A brutal L. Second in a row for the meatlock, unfortunately. And it was a fight that was essentially designed for him, but he was the worst brother, and Walter Walker apparently was better than him, and better to the sense that he submitted him in the first round. So pretty rough stuff from Junior Tafa in a fight designed for him, but nonetheless, we shall persist. Minus 130 was the damage to the meat roll, and plus 531 is still the lifetime surplus, but we're trying to get back on track. Apart from the meatlock, it was okay for your boy. I went 4-3. Meat went 2-5, so not the greatest week, but some great fights. We were both all over Dricus du Plessis, so that was one to celebrate, and the guy made a fan out of me, I gotta say. Dricus du Plessis, the way, just the whole fight, the aftermath, everything was, it really lived up to the hype, I thought. And sometimes those hyped up fights under-deliver, but this one for me had it all, and let me know in the comments if you agree with that. But nonetheless, 4-3 for your boy, 2-5 for Meat. Not going to spend too much time recapping it because I want to get through with the locks this week, and we'll jump straight to the meat lock, and this is one that should get us back on track. It's an absolute lateral meat send, going heavy, boys, throwing down 500 to net 200. We're taking Caio Borralho. We're not picking against a fighting nerd, and this just seems like the opportunity to widen this guy's audience because Caio Borralho has been living up to the hype. He's been thoroughly dismantling every opponent that has been put against him, and Jared Cannonier, well, obviously the dude is a levels test. Obviously the dude is one of the best guys in the division. He's 2-2 in his last few, and it just hasn't been looking great, especially in that last contest against Imavov, who, similar to Caio Borralho, was a hyped-up prospect who really made Cannonier look like the old guard. So we think this is the ushering in of a new guard for those who aren't already initiated and familiar and convinced by Caio Borralho. So the fighting nerds remained undefeated. We saw what happened to the Leech last week. I mean, these guys are unstoppable, and we like this to be an easy meat lock victory for Caio Borralho. Meat thinks by early first-round submission. I think this could go a little bit longer, and I hope it does. I want to see what Caio the Natural, a.k.a. Free Spirit, looks like in those later rounds, but I'm going to go Caio by third or fourth round finish in a fight that maybe Caio eats a couple meat bombs, but like Jared Cannonier said in that interview with Colt Tobiano's Corner, one meatball ain't going to do it against this guy, and Caio Borralho is going to have whatever answer he needs. So we like Caio for the meatlock. Again, going kind of heavy, but we got to get this meatlock back on track. So let us know in the comments if you agree with this meatlock, and we'll keep it moving. It is Francis Fire Marshall, the Fireman, at minus 142, a 7-2 record and 1-2 in the UFC, taking on Dennis Bazooka Joe, who is 1-2 in the UFC, a plus 120 dog, and is 12-4 overall. We know this guy as a Cerro Longo dude. He's been training out there for a minute, and they keep saying this is the next guy from this team, and perhaps he just needs the opportunity and the opponent like Francis Marshall, but it seems like make or break for both these dudes. And you see Meat's pick, he's going Francis Fire Marshall all day, and simply because he likes the juicy odds, right? I mean, minus 142 is the Fireman, and we've seen him at a more expensive clip, so perhaps that's what Meat is comparing it to, but he also acknowledges that this is probably a fight with double KO potential because both these guys are pretty bad. So Meat's going Francis Marshall. I'm going to take the hype beast Bazooka Joe. If there's ever an opportunity to finally come into your own, this I believe has to be the guy, Fire Marshall, because I wasn't sold on this dude in Contender Series. I haven't been sold throughout his 1-2 UFC tenure thus far, and I don't know. I think Bazooka, I liked him more at plus 200 against Danny Silva, but still as a dog against the unproven Francis Marshall, I see Dennis finding a way to get this one done, and he might get smoked. Maybe it is a double KO, but I'm going to buy the hype train of Bazooka one last time. I'll go Bazooka by unanimous decision. Meat is going Francis all the way, so let us know if you have the Fireman and Ngannou Marshall, or if you're on Bazooka Joe, but we'll keep it moving. Shabazian is taking on GM3 Gerald Mearshard, and you see Meat's pick, which I found fascinating when he first shared it with me, because you never know. In a GM3 fight, sometimes you ride him, sometimes you don't, and Meat is taking him as a plus 250 dog in this one against Edmen Shahbazyan. And the simple reason why is that it's likely going to be almost a KO loss for GM3, but somehow he survives, even though it's early and often, and ultimately he picks up a late submission. And to Meat's point, we've seen that story how many times from Gerald Meerschaert? I mean, the last couple fights we haven't seen it, but historically, if you just look at the last 10, you've seen it many times. And who's a guy who loves to lose fights that he's supposed to win? It's Edmen Shahbazyan. So I find this to be perfect matchmaking. It's like, if you can't beat this version of GM3, who by no means is his peak version, I would argue that, you know, maybe 3-4 years ago was probably peak GM3. Obviously, the dude is still talented. Obviously, the dude can still beat a lot of guys, but is he peak GM3? I don't think so. And if this version at this age beats you, Edmen, then that to me is evident of a failed prospect. But nonetheless, again, Meat's going GM3 probably by late submission or late finish. I got to go Edmen in this one. He's got to find a way to get this done. And if he doesn't finish GM3, then I don't know what to make out of Edmen and his potential and his future in this division. Because at this point, it'll just be like, we haven't seen it. So go be a champ in PFL. That would be sweet. But I don't know if this is make or break for me. And I think he's going to make it. I think Edmen's going to get this one done. Maybe it's a close decision. Maybe I'm putting too much emphasis on the need for a finish for Shahbazyan, but you got to imagine he wants to make a statement. So I'm going to go Edmen officially. Meat's taking GM3 as a plus 250 dog, and I don't blame him. I mean, this dude has double-digit fight experience. Obviously, he's got like a 500 record, but the dude is a levels test. So I'll go Edmen slightly. He's got GM3. We'll keep it moving. A couple to go. Mike Mo, a.k.a. Michael Morales, is taking on another levels test. This card is just jam-packed with levels tests, essentially. Neil Magny, who, what jumps out to me right away is the odds. Plus 600 is pretty disrespectful. I don't care how good Michael Morales is, and obviously the kid is very good, but minus 900 seems a little crazy. And this to me is just, is this fight Neil Magny versus Michael Malott, or is Michael Morales the real Michael Malott? Because Michael Malott got, I mean, he looked good in the first 10 minutes, but when you can't put out Neil Magny, the dude's always going to be there, and if you happen to gas out, it's bad news bears for you. So is Mike Mo the same as Mike Malott, Mike Malak? We shall see. Meat obviously thinks that that's not going to be the case. Michael Morales is perhaps the real Mike Malak, but he likes him to get this one done because simply put, he's the real deal, and Magny is aging, and that is a fact that is difficult to argue with. I guess the only counter would be, even at his old age, he's still always competitive. I mean, maybe he's slowed down a little bit in the last 18 months, but the dude's always game. The dude's always tough. Is toughness going to be enough in this fight, though, against Michael Morales? Probably not. I'm going to roll with Meat. I'm taking Michael Morales, and I'm never afraid to take Neil Magny. I took Neil Magny over Mike Malak, but I don't know. Mike Mo probably is just on a different level because this dude is going out there beating everyone. I was especially impressed with how easily he dismantled and dismembered Max Payne Griffin. And Max Payne Griffin is a guy who can beat a lot of dudes at the welterweight division. Maybe not quite on Neil Magny's level, but pretty close to it. And I believe they fought to a very close fight. So very close competitive between those guys. And Mike Mo absolutely smoked. So I'm going to go with Meat. We both got Mike Mo. I'll take him by decision, though. I don't know if he's able to finish Neil Magny early and often, but it could be like a 30-25 brutal beatdown decision. So I'll go Neil Mag. One to go, boys. I know Meat's gone, and again, hopefully he'll be back in a couple weeks. Appreciate you grilling and chilling if you are always still ripping with the boys, and I know some of you are, so much appreciated to you. But last one to go, Angela Hill, Overkill, taking on Tabitha Ricci, a.k.a. the Baby Shark, and you see Meat's pick. He's taking Tabitha Ricci. His argument is that she keeps improving every fight, and similar to Neil Magny, similar to Killer Gorilla, it's an aging Hill. And
Overkill.
I guess to that, my only counter would be, if we're looking at the age of some of the fighters on this card, who at this older age is the best version of themselves? It's got to be Angela Hill. I mean,
Overkill
is the last 5 or 6 fights has been probably the best version we've ever seen from her, and she's going to be ultimately the woman with the record for the most UFC fights ever. So this is someone who's been around forever, and she's just now coming into her own, which is pretty crazy to say. But I don't know. In this one, Tabitha Ricci is a very good fighter. I do wonder, though, if we saw a little bit of a level become exposed in that Mackenzie Dern most recent contest, because she absolutely smoked her opponent, Lupi Godinez. Lupi Godinez fought to a very close fight against Ricci, but then again, Mackenzie Dern absolutely smoked Angela Hill, so it's like maybe Mackenzie Dern is just that much better than everyone. That could be the case for sure. But at a plus 105 dog, I like Angela Hill to find a way to get this one done again. I'm hopeful that it's a close decision that Angela Hill is finally on the right side of, because it seems like, there was a long stretch, and, we've been breaking down fights for a long time. Angela Hill would be competitive in every single fight. You would think she probably won every single fight, and she would lose a split or she would lose a controversial unanimous. And the last couple of years, I feel like that's maybe turned around a little bit in the sense that she hasn't had such extremely bad luck with the judges, at least of late. So my hope is that this fight is close. It's a decision, but it's a decision for Angela Hill. And Angela Hill, I mean, you got to imagine she's 1 or 2 wins away from a title fight. And maybe that sounds a little bit crazy, but then you look at the news from a few days ago. Khalil Roundtree is fighting for a title against Alex Pereira. So you never know what the UFC is going to do. And if you can step up and the opportunity and timing aligns with the stars, then maybe you get a title fight. So I'm going to go Angela Hill on this one. Close decision. Meat obviously has Tabitha Ricci, but nonetheless, an easy 5 Ripper boys. Let us know if you agree with any of the takes, if you disagree with all of them. Comment something below, talk some smack. Most importantly, though, let us know about the MEATLOCK, because, again, it's a heavy, high lateral meat bomb, and we think that the free spirit is taking this one home and burying the crystals, so to speak. So let us know in the comments who you're rolling with. Well, hopefully Meat's back in a couple weeks. See you then, boys.